Over 1,000 illegal migrants have landed in Britain today. A record-breaking day in single biggest numbers, I think, since Keir Starmer took over. The largest flotilla of migrant arrivals in a single day has been broken for the third time already this year. In yet another humiliation for the Prime Minister's clearly doomed smash the gangs policy, migrant arrivals are now up over 40% on this time last year under the Conservative government. You probably remember hearing rumours of queues building up in Calais as Rishi Sunak doubled down on the Rwanda deterrent. Well, of course, we all know that was undone by Sir Keir Starmer on day one, who replaced it with an empty promise to smash the gangs. Well, how's that going, Prime Minister? Unfortunately, I'm not done talking about dismal records being smashed, because today we found out that foreigners are costing British taxpayers £1 billion a month in benefits. That is £12 billion a year. We were told we can't afford to heat the homes of our elderly. We were told we can't afford to help our farmers anymore. Yet £12 billion a year for foreigners on benefits. That's where your hard-earned taxpayer money is being spent. Half the cost of the so-called black hole in our public finances. Now, for the cost of just a couple of months of this madness, we could afford to undo all of Labour's damage and some more. Winter fuel allowance, well, that's gone. It's £2 billion a year in just 2 months of migrant benefit spending, nonetheless. Farming inheritance tax relief, that's another £1.5 billion, another 1.5 months of migrant payouts. Two-child benefit cap, Labour kept it to save £3 billion. That's just 3 months out to people who have barely paid into the system. With £5.5 billion left over, after reversing all 3 of those heartless cuts to British people, we could still do this. 18 brand new hospitals, 183 primary schools, 27,500 new council homes, and hire 110,000 new police officers to actually patrol our streets. Like the vast majority of normal countries around the world, we should just deport people who simply cannot pay their way. This isn't controversial. It is common sense. British taxpayers are not charity workers. So when they tell you we can't afford to heat pensioners' homes, we can't protect family farms or lift children out of poverty, just remember this. We could afford it, just they choose to spend it on foreigners instead.
Yep.
Will, of course, I'm coming to you first because you're actually a foreigner.
I am a
right?
foreigner, yep.
How would you feel being a British citizen if you had to sit here on benefits while the rest of us had to work to pay your way?
Pretty unhappy, Alex, but can I defend myself slightly, because I am one of those migrants. I am someone on a visa. I'm one of the 5% of people on a visa in this country on a skilled worker visa, i.e. the people who will be net contributors to the economy,
exactly.
who'll be bringing particular skills to the table. 95% of people who are on visas in this country are not in that category. It goes to show this is about the mix of migrants in this country. It's about the people who will actually mix in culturally and will actually put the money on the table.
Would you be okay, just before I move on to Renee, would you be okay being deported if you no longer contribute to society?
Of course. It's common sense.
I'll do it.
Minister for Deportation, Dr. Renee, you're next.
Look, I think the most interesting thing about this that you just said is about choice. Because there's plenty of money that is currently being put into the government's coffers. It's not their money, it's our money, by us, the taxpayers. Yes. And everything they do with it is a choice. So when they make crazy choices but don't care about elderly people freezing in their home and farmers losing their farms so we don't have food, people will start to kick back, and they are.
Kai, 2 points here. Massive failure on Smash the Gangs. That is absolutely abysmal. Up 40% on Rishi Sunak, by the way. That's after, of course, there's no deterrent anymore. The Prime Minister's now scrambling on immigration. He's scrambling to try and win back the votes on this because it's looking even worse now. 3 records smashed in a year. You've lost control of immigration. The border's just completely unmanageable now.
What you haven't said, Alex, is other figures that came out this week show that immigration has fallen in 2024.
Because of what the Conservatives did.
As I was going to say, from 860,000 to 431,000.
Let's celebrate
right?
Slicing in half the crisis, everybody.
And look, it's not good enough. But what it shows is how long it takes to actually change systems of quite great complexity
Well, no, it took a
in
year
this
because-
country
it took
and
a
in
year.
other countries.
It took a year because the figures are yearly. They made the changes. The figures come out.
Well, it took 2
a
years.
year.
But we're not
Right,
even
it took
talking
2
about
years.
legal
If
migration.
it's
I wasn't
half-
even asking you about legal migration. Legal migration.
I know. No, but what I'm saying is the idea that Smash the Gangs has failed because of the figures that we've seen in the last few months or in this last week is ridiculous, because what those figures clearly show is it takes time to change the system.
But illegal migration is going down because of Conservative Party policy, and illegal migration is going up since Labour is. So there is quite clearly. You can't sit here and. I mean, come on, Carl, you're a reasonable bloke. You can't sit here and deny that there's a failure of policy here. There's no deterrent, is there?
I don't think that the problem is the failure of policy or that there's a lack of deterrence.
What's the problem?
Right? I think it's just complicated. There's been a policy change.
Okay, it's just complicated. Then. Let's not worry about it. The whole economy thing. It's just complicated. There's a lot of numbers. Let's not worry about it.
I think what Kai's saying, the complication,
Yeah.
it's true, but I think there's not really a real sense of deterrence. There are no consequences. So these gangs that are bringing them over are thinking it's fair game. In fact, let's bring as many as we can.
But it's not
because
just
there's not
that.
a perception that there are any consequences at all whatsoever.
Look, I think if we just took away all of the benefits and the houses and the hotels, that would be a good start. But, Kai, when Starmer signs into reality this EU youth movement scheme, and we find out what the numbers are, that halving of the visa scheme is going to be eclipsed by the number of people coming from
100%.
Europe to fill our cheap jobs.
Yeah.
So we're going to just massage it.
Trey, let me talk to you about this massive benefits bill we're paying. £12 billion, £1 billion a month. Right, British people, British taxpayers are paying for people who've come to this country to live here, to stay here on benefits. They're not net contributors at that point. They are a drain on the economy. Should we just be deporting people who can't do this like every other country does?
I think, a system that I think is really good to buy. Pretty much you can't beat it unless you've got a job.
Yep.
You can't actually do anything unless you are going to be a contributor. And I think that's probably what needs to happen, isn't it? Of course, it doesn't sound good. I mean, I'm sure those figures may not be that accurate, but we know it's costing, right? And I think what needs to happen is needs to be some level of deterrence in terms of we're just not going to support people in those situations whatsoever, and everyone knows about it, so less people are going to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know?
Yeah, Kai, on this particular topic, your potential future Prime Minister in waiting, Angela Rayner's had some things to say on it, hasn't she? Would you back her? Would you back her? Because she's saying we should scrap benefits for migrants as well.
Well, you can only access payments at the minute once your immigration status has been verified by the Home Office.
What do you call a hotel?
Hang on, no, don't dodge the question.
But no. I think that shows.
Rayner
Yeah, yes, I do.
on this policy.
Well, I said that last week, didn't I?
Yeah, there you go.
I think she's a common.
Keir Starmer's wrong there.
What's clear is that the Labour Party, as well as lots of mainstream politicians, are waking up to the fact that the benefits of widespread immigration have not been felt and were not correctly reported previously. We know that, OK? And the Labour Party is making moves to try and combat.
I think it's an insincere move, though, isn't it? I think it's just a reaction.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, listen.
I believe that Labour, to its core, believes in open borders and one world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.